You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hey everyone, thank you very much for hitting that play button. This is another episode of the Dave Bullis Podcast, but you've already hit the play button, and I'm sure you kind of know what you already hit the play button for, right? I always kind of feel it's kind of like superfluous to always, say what podcast you're listening to. But anyways, again, thank you for actually listening, and thank you for everyone who always shares this podcast. I can't thank you enough. Really, it's not just me sharing it, it's when you share it that it really takes off. So if there's anything that you can use a value or you find a value in the episode, please share it, because somebody else most likely will find value in it as well. And in this episode of the podcast, we actually are going to talk a lot about video. Not just about filmmakers, but also video content creators and how you can actually win the war of eyeballs and ears. Remember, everyone can actually do everything now. Everyone's a filmmaker. Everyone's a YouTube content creator. Everyone's a podcaster, too. But how do you win the war of eyeballs and ears? How do you actually get that stuff out there? We kind of try to figure out that puzzle in this episode of the podcast. And by the way, before I forget, if you use the coupon code Dave Bullis Show Video, you get 50% off a platinum plan at Wix.com. I'm going to link that in the show notes at davebullis.com. So just in case you're out jogging or you're driving to work or God knows what you're doing while you're listening to this podcast, I always link everything to, especially the show notes, at davebullis.com. So if you forget everything else about it, just remember davebullis.com. So on this episode of the podcast, again, we're going to be talking about marketing, short films being used as actual commercials, and so much more as we talk all about this wonderful, wonderful world of filmmaking and video. We also talk about a lot of really cool projects as well. This is episode 161 with guest Danielle Raiz.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
So I started my career in consumer media startups. So I've always been about creating tools for creatives and for all sorts of creatives, from better ways to showcase photography online and video online and musicians and stuff like that. And I came to Wix because we saw that there's a huge user base of video creators that didn't have the perfect tools for their needs. And at Wix, we're all about empowering users, and different users have different needs. So we came to this project in order to help video creators grow their business, knowing that for a video creator, their content is their business. So it's all about, better showcase, better distribution options, stuff like that.
So Danielle, when you're obviously you see a ton of different things, with your position, you see a ton of different filmmakers, you see a ton of different videos. Can you think of any off the top of your head right now that have just been like absolutely like astounding? And because everything is digital now, and we have so many tools at our disposal, it's almost overwhelming at times. But and sometimes you see projects and that just come out of left field and they're just amazing. Have you run into any that you could think of on the top of your head, during your course at Wix?
Wix website or in general?
Oh, just in general.
So in general, I think that it's a really exciting time to be a video creator because there are a lot of new ways now to create content, which are really interesting. I see, for example, our users, experimenting with 360 videos and VR, and it's really a whole new way to look at how you create content and how people engage with it. Also, if you look at the platforms that people are using, Facebook, etc., so you get a lot of live engagement. So it's really interesting to see, how creators evolve, how they create content in terms of how this landscape is changing over time. So this is one thing that I find really interesting. And I also think that there are a lot of tools in the last couple of years that are about giving video creators, the power to control their careers. So up until now, you're kind of like, you had a few video services and you kind of had to play by their rules. And now that you have all the power because everyone's chasing after all the great video creators out there, you can actually decide, you can actually control the way that you're displayed and the way that you're monetizing your content, and you have so many platforms to choose from, which is amazing. So I think these are really exciting times.
Yeah, and you mentioned something that I usually talk about on this show, and that is you have to sort of create your own sort of what I call a stake in the ground. And basically what that is you have to get a website. And that is your stake, so in the ground. And, mine is davebullis.com. And basically that way, when you're actually out there and you're making stuff, you can upload it to a website. And this is, I think, is key because now, I don't know, it's just, maybe if it's just me, but whenever someone says who's does, creative work or artistic work, and they say they don't have a website, I kind of go, really? Like, you know what I mean? It just, it seems like it should be second nature at this point.
Completely. So I think that for visual artists, your site is really your business card. And when people talk to you, they'll just go to Google, they'll Google your name, and they need to find like a professional, beautiful online presence because it actually reflects on how they look at your work. So you really want to have control on how this is displayed. And, Wix, we're really about like giving you all the tools so you don't have to think about how to create your website or how to design it. We're just giving you everything, giving you all the tools that you need so you can just focus on your content and just put it, in a beautiful template and that could customize the entire thing and make it your own. So when people go to your site, they see your site and your logo and your brand and, it's all you. And it doesn't really matter where the content is coming from.
Yeah, that's true. And especially now with video becoming what it is, so important in marketing and advertising. For instance, you go onto a lot of these, video sites and, Hulu, Vudu, YouTube, and you see those ads before the video. And they're short films. They're no longer just like people, pitching you things. They're a literal short film, and the product is what's being marketed. You know what I mean?
Definitely. So, because, businesses started realizing that video is really the most engaging way to connect people to their brand, to their brand and to showcase their products. So they're actually, the ads, as you said, they're becoming like little films that are incredible. You've seen that, for example, I think the big fashion houses now, they release to YouTube such incredible clips and short films that are all about, showcasing a certain dress that they're selling or a certain collection, but it's like a film production for sure. So this is totally something that is interesting.
So Danielle, you've had a few filmmakers come to you and come to Wix in general, and you sort of help them along. I know in talking with Vivian, she mentioned you have two, An Evening with Bukowski and Slate Goods NYC, and some of these different projects. When they come to you, what are some of the things that you sort of cover when you're talking to them? Is there any sort of do you have a sort of a template, a check sheet that you go through, or is it sort of you base it upon every different filmmaker for when they're going to obviously when they're coming to you with advice for video and for websites, etc.?
Yeah, so the thing about Slate and the two examples that you gave, Slate Goods and the Evening with Bukowski, are two incredible examples of the platform. The thing is, we didn't reach out to them until after they actually created their website, because the thing is, it's such a do-it-yourself platform. They didn't really need any help from us or any guidance for us, and they created two beautiful showcases. So Slate New York, they're doing, they're selling Snickers, and what they're working with nonprofits. So they use video on their website to connect people to the nonprofits that they work with, to tell their stories, which really helps business. And it's not like the typical video creator, but it's someone that realized that video helps you sell and it helps connect people to your brand. And An Evening with Bukowski just became one of my favorite stories, because the thing about that movie, it's a documentary film that actually premiered in Venice Film Festival last year, and then in Slamdance and several other festivals. And the thing is that the director actually found a bunch of tapes of his mom, who was a journalist, I don't know how many decades ago, interviewing Charles Bukowski, the writer. And it was so good, he decided to make a movie out of it. and he created this amazing documentary, and then he creates a website for it. And on the website, you see that you can watch the trailer, you can see all the festivals that it's showcased in, and then you can, contact him, and you have the press area and everything. So when you go there, you actually, you hear the entire story behind the film, and it's fascinating. So these are actually two great examples of, different uses for people who are either filmmakers or not filmmakers at all, realizing the power of video.
So then it's sort of, take that a step further, Danielle. If you were to have somebody sort of come to you then, a filmmaker, and he or she wanted to put their films, use Wix to build a site, put some videos up, what advice would you give them? Obviously, because you mentioned you got to talk to the two filmmakers after their movies came out. But but if you had the opportunity to talk to people before those movies come out, what would be some of the advice that you would give them?
So I think the first thing I would say is, that creating movies and videos these days, it's not like a one-way thing. So you have to engage with your viewers, and you have to do it even before you start filming. So you build your own website, you create a teaser, you put whatever content you have there, you start talking to your fans and engaging with them, you share behind the scenes and updates and teasers, and you really create a buzz about your film before it's even out there. And then once it's out there, so you revamp your website a little bit, and you make sure that the movie is available, either for sale or even just a trailer if you want to do the festival run, but just keep users, keep your viewers engaged all the time. This is something that's really, really critical in my eyes. And then, if you add to it like a director's statement and interviews with your cast and exclusive content, then people really have, they get a lot off your website. They really connect to your vision. They understand why you did what you did and what you're trying to say. And I think this is, just watching a video without all that context, it's not as powerful as it can be. And the fact that you can engage with your fans in such a way, the fact that you can even, send them updates and, even live stream from the set, use whatever you have at the moment. You don't have to have the entire film ready in order to start working. You have to start working on it a lot before it's done.
Yeah, and that's something I tell crowdfunders too as well is, you have to sort of build that audience before you launch your crowdfunding campaign, because a lot of times they'll launch and they'll try to find their crowd that way, but you know what I mean, and then they sort of are trying to, they're sort of putting the cart before the horse instead of actually saying, let's build up an audience now, and then when we launch this thing we'll be able to actually have an audience, and we'll actually have an audience that we can actually talk to once we launch this crowdfunding campaign. And it's the same way with a movie. You want to build up an audience, and then by the time the movie comes out, you already have that audience who said, "Hey, well, listen, we've seen the poster, we've seen the trailer, and now we actually want to see the whole movie."
Definitely, I totally agree with you on that. And I have to say that, for example, having a website for crowdfunders is really it's even essential, because it helps you appear a lot more professional. Then you're not just another Kickstarter project. So you have your own site with all the information there, with everything that you need. And we have actually had some users like that. Also, about creating a buzz before. So one example that I can recall is a user that was he had a horror comedy for Valentine's Day. So what he did was he sent out just a lot of teasers in social media. And by the way, social media, I'm sure you talk about it in your podcast all the time, how critical social media is for filmmakers. But he had a lot of social media buzz before the movie was out, that, it's going to be out in Valentine's Day, and it's going to be, free to watch entire Valentine's Day, and then it's going to be paid per view. So he created a lot of buzz, and he released it on Valentine's Day. Then it just started selling the next day, and all that buzz really, really helped. So he got the press, and he got all the buzz in social media and whatever. So it was really a cool story.
Yeah, just to sort of piggyback on that story, Danielle, one time I actually made a short film. It was one of those, weekend film competitions where you have to make a film very, very quickly. And what I did was I actually used Wix to I wanted to make just a simple one-page website. I didn't want anything fancy. And I was like, I need something quick because I don't want to sit here and do all this other stuff. So I actually used Wix, and I just made this one sheet of one page, and just telling people what the movie is and a couple little things here and there. And then the funniest thing was I actually just put like at the bottom, like everything, like here's where we're going to be. And people actually responded to that, just that one page. They were like, because and you know what they said, Danielle? They said, hey, we didn't have anywhere else to go. There was nowhere else to click on. There wasn't like, all these different, tabs at the top. They said, it was just very simple and self-contained. And they said, we it seemed to get the point across a little better than if I had a different bunch of tabs at the top. And, I just remembered that, I've always taken that with me over the years, because whenever I'm, thinking about making a different website or whatever, I'm always thinking, I shouldn't make it too busy to give people too many options. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have a page where it's like, watch this and then that. You know what I mean? I want to make it so it's like, it's all sort of, it's like a path, like a linear path, if you know what I'm trying to say.
So take them through the journey. It makes a lot of sense. You put you put, for example, your most recent video on the top. You make sure they watch your recent thing, and you then add some, either tabs or below the fold or whatever, with additional content for those who are interested in more. And you can connect between them, and you can split in, categories and tag and keep people moving throughout the journey of your creation. It makes a lot of sense.
So, as we sort of talk, about content creation, it seems like everyone's getting into that now. All these different platforms are looking towards creating different content and stuff like that. And I wonder if it ever, I know this is obviously this is kind of speculation, but I would always wonder if different websites would be entertaining that even more, like websites we don't even think about. You know what I mean? Like, because, if you look, the latest person I heard is getting into original content is Vudu, and that's owned by Walmart. So you got Vudu, and you got Amazon, you got Netflix, YouTube, of course, does their thing. And as I look out into the landscape, I wonder, what other websites and companies are going to start creating their own original content with shows, and some of which, like we were discussing earlier, are going to just be commercials for things that are coming out. You know what I mean? Like, maybe, like different companies can focus on, a new item or coming out. For instance, I knew a guy, he actually made a Star Wars short film to promote these lightsabers that they had made. And they actually got the actual license to make these lightsabers, and they actually, the trailer was just these two guys battling it out in a lightsaber fight, and that was their whole marketing campaign.
Sounds very cool, actually. I'd love to see that one. There are a lot of services, and the thing is, it's just when you go to each of these services, you usually need to play by their rules. But then, if you put everything on your own domain, so it's basically we have the ability to showcase all the videos in one place. So, for example, if what you're talking about right now, like you could create some, specific kind of content for Facebook, and then you could do something for YouTube or for Vimeo. And, each platform has their own, their own style and their own, your intent of like why you're doing what you're doing. You go to YouTube for the viral, and you go to Vimeo because there's an amazing creators community, and then you do like live and viral and, things on Facebook. And then when you have all that content everywhere, it's kind of nice to have your own domain when you can showcase they're all in one place. So this is one thing that we put a lot of emphasis on. We know that creators they have their content running around everywhere, and it's really hard to keep track. And, it looks different everywhere, and, you keep using each of these platforms for their own, like each in their own advantage, but then you want on your own side to have the ability to control everything and to just say, okay, this is all the things I created throughout all the platforms and everything, but this is mine. So this is one thing that we put a lot of emphasis on, and, make it an easy to grab your videos from everywhere and just say, okay, this is all Dave's work, no matter where it's from, this is all Dave's work.
Yeah, and that's very true. And there's speaking of putting on like everything in a portfolio. I wanted to ask what advice would you give about SEO? Because Danielle, everyone talks now about if everyone does have a website or if everyone does have a channel, how do people actually find it other than word of mouth? So because obviously because you've seen all these different things, what advice would you have for somebody to sort of make sure that their SEO, their search engine optimization is actually locked down, and so that way people can actually, if they are searching for maybe something like if they're searching for basketball or ping pong tables or something like that, that they can actually find your videos.
So actually, SEO is something that Wix put a lot of emphasis on. So we actually have tools that automate this entire process for you and help you make this, the best you can find. Because as we said in the beginning, when people will want to look things up, they'll just go to Google and then they just they go there and they say, okay, I'll probably whatever comes up on the first page, this is what they'll click. I think the most important thing is just to make sure that you have a lot of information on everything that you add on your site. So you want to fill in all the details of everything that you do. For example, if you're a filmmaker and you have your crew and your cast and the description and everything, you want everything written down, because basically Google just looks for good, solid content. And if it's good, solid content, what you have there, and the favorite videos, so that's even better. So you should be fine. And also, there are a lot of tools to optimize your SEO, which I think everyone should definitely use, because this is something critical these days.
Yeah, it's as we talk about on this podcast, it's a war of eyeballs and ears now, right? Because everyone, the playing field has evened out a lot. Obviously, hard work and talent still count, but if everyone has a camera, you have to especially be able to stand out from the pack.
Definitely.
So, as we sort of, go on with this conversation, Danielle, I wanted to ask, when you're putting together a website, what are some of the things that you usually tell people to make sure you focus on? I mean, is there anything, beyond, obviously, since we're talking a lot about video, is there anything sort of beyond video that you that you tell filmmakers, you make sure to put this on your site so it looks, it looks and feels and it is a complete site?
Yeah, so for filmmakers, what I would say, besides, having all your content there with all, the additional info and everything, is connect all the social channels that you have. You're probably using, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever. You want to use them all. You want to show all the buzz around your films and all the activity around it. You want to share updates and behind the scenes and stuff. I would probably do this in like a production blog, which could be great for filmmakers, to get people engaged with the movie. And then always have a press section. Make it easy. You want to get coverage for your film, even if it's, not yet in production, but you want to get some coverage, you want to get some buzz. Make it really easy for media to find what they're looking for. So I have like a proper press section with all the media they need, with your context info. Make it easy for them to help you get, the coverage you want. Same goes for screenings. There are so many apps and stuff. If you're already out there, just have all your laurels out and have all your screening dates and everything, so people know where to find you. So I think that's the most important thing. These are the most things.
Yeah, I wanted to ask too, Danielle. I don't know if the answer to this question, so I figured I'd ask you: are forums still a thing? You remember forums, like back in the day, where people would actually have where they could post different, things. I mean, I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but I mean, is it? I mean, do have you seen filmmakers or even other users actually, try to put forums into the website and maybe have any type of sort of engagement with it?
So yes, definitely. The thing about forums is that people, a lot of times, forums is just another way to create a community around something. And if you're interesting enough or you're doing something that's interesting to users enough, they'll come and they'll read and they'll engage and they'll also want to comment, which is, makes perfect sense. So I do think forums are definitely something that you should have if you want ongoing engagement. But it needs to be interesting enough. So I would probably create a forum around something very specific. For example, your Star Wars example. So Star Wars fans are like hysterical, okay? And if you have a forum that's all about, Star Wars fans and creating media around it and things, that would totally engage, viewers coming to your site, help them stay longer and help get them really connected to what you do. So it's just a strong way to create a community.
Okay, and that's a good point, because I see, I haven't been on forums in a while, and I've always wondered if that was still, a viable option. Because again, like we were just saying, there's so many options out there now, and it's you have so many different things to choose from. It's hard to sometimes, wonder, what do you mean? What if that tool that you've used before is still going to be, a good option? If you know what I'm trying to say. So it's but as you sort of bring this back to video, even with video, some of the the tools that I've used in the past, you can use some of them still, and other ones it's just like you can't do it anymore. For instance, I had a mini DV cam that, if I used it now, I feel like I'm kind of, shooting myself in the foot because I'm giving myself an extra step, because you have to take the DV tape out of the camera. You have to, digitize the footage so you can start editing it in something like Premiere or Advid, and it's just, you start to say, well, wait a minute, why don't I just shoot digital to begin with and eliminate this whole process? You know what I mean? It's just how things change anymore so rapidly, in the world we live in now.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry, Danielle. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, I'm with you.
Awesome. And that's something I also wanted to ask too. Is where do you see Wix going in the next couple of years in terms of video and everything out and everything like that? With everything sort of we talked about all different things. Is there any place that you can see Wix going?
Well, I'll tell you the thing. We're here to empower video creators, okay? So as this industry evolves and as the technologies change, so we're going to evolve with that. And we want to provide, easy access to all the tools you're already using. We want to help you, as we said, build a community around your content. So we're always going to find the best and most innovative ways to do that. And I think that this landscape of, currently we're talking about, showcasing and distributing your content, which is something that has changed dramatically in the last couple of years. And if you look now, then you'll see that, for example, on demand, which is something that, talk to me like 10 years ago, I wouldn't believe that someone would pay for video on demand. And today it's the most obvious thing that you can, sell your content directly to fans. You can sell, you can sell your skills, you can sell tutorials, you can do so many things with it. So this is something that we could never imagine. And now this is so common, and this landscape keeps changing. So we just plan to change with it.
Yeah, and like we were just saying, everything changes so rapidly now, and you have to sort of be ahead of the curve, and again that's where I go back to with content creation and being able to get your stuff out there to your fans directly, because that's what has happened with technology. Over the past, even let's just say 10 years, you've cut out the whole middleman, and now you're selling directly to your fans. You can make a whole a website, and you can talk directly to people, and once those people find your website, you can start engaging with them and hopefully make a fan for life. And then that's something I always wonder where the next iteration is going to be. But that's what I mean by how everything has changed is maybe it'll be completely different than what we think it'll be, or maybe it'll versus it changing in increments, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure that things are going to change on different levels. So the technology is changing dramatically all the time, and then the engagement levels that you have are changing all the time. So it also affects the content that you're creating. So suddenly you create a live stream and you talk to people directly, or you create a 360 movie and you make your viewers they can select their next scene or where they're going with it. So there are so many things that are changing at once. It's going to be very interesting to see where creators take this, because I think the power is really in the creators' hands on how they're going to take this amazing, these amazing technologies and these amazing opportunities and create groundbreaking experiences. It's all about creating an experience, not just once, many years ago you would sit in the cinema and just watch a film and just go out, and now it's a whole experience you're getting into, and everything is getting a lot more interactive. So as time goes, it's going to be really interesting to see what creators do with it, and I think that they'll be the ones to decide where this is going. You can have the most amazing technology out there, but if you don't get creators to create amazing things with it, amazing experiences with it, it's not going to work.
That is a fantastic point, Danielle. That is absolutely fantastic. Danielle, we've been talking for about 30 minutes, give or take. Just in closing, is there anything that we haven't got a chance to discuss or that you wanted to discuss now, or maybe even something you wanted to sort of say to put a period at the end of this whole conversation?
Listen, like, if we're talking about, like, Wix in general or Wix video specifically, so the thing to remember is that we always have creators in mind. So it's always about, having people, giving people the ability to have complete control over how their content is displayed. Like, you worked so hard, on your latest short film or whatever. You should be the one to decide how it's displayed, where it's displayed, how it is monetized. You should be able to sell it directly if you want and not rely on any other service. You should be able to do it on your own domain. Like, it's all about, providing control and giving the power back, I think. And this is something that we're doing. So we're a fairly new service at the moment, and we keep evolving this and improving this over time. And I think we have amazing things, coming soon that I'm not even able to discuss, but I'm sure you will follow up after this, and I'm sure we'll keep talking, and it's been a pleasure.
And, and obviously, yeah, we're definitely going to keep talking, Danielle, and I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, one last question was, where can people find you out online?
So you can find us at Wix.com. Basically, you have a whole section for video creators with a lot of beautiful, stunning film templates and templates for video creators. And then you have the Wix Video app within the site where you can have all the amazing features we talked about.
And do you have any personal Twitter or anything you want to give out, Danielle?
Not really. I'm a LinkedIn kind of girl.
By the way, I shot you a LinkedIn friend request.
Great. I'm on it.
So feel free to decline that at any time. No, I'm just kidding around. But I'm really good. I made sure to I looked. I was looking for if you had any social media, like a Twitter or anything, and a LinkedIn came up, and I was like, oh, there she is. I'll send her a connection request. But
I'm all about giving other people the stage. I'm just providing the tools, giving other people the stage. I'm a backstage girl.
Well, Danielle, I want to say thank you so much, for coming on. Everyone, it's DaveBullis.com. Twitter, it's at Dave_Bullis. Everything Danielle and I talked about will be in the show notes. That can be found at DaveBullis.com. And Danielle, I want to say thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
All right, you're very welcome. Take care, Danielle.
Bye.
Find Dave at DaveBullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.